This girl waits all night for her boyfriend to show up for her birthday, and he never does. That's where this story begins. A beautiful girl named Seo-yeon is waiting for her boyfriend so they can celebrate her birthday together, but he's late. She sends him a message asking when he'll arrive, but he apologizes and tells her he went on a trip with his friends. Furious, Seo-yeon blocks him. We learn she'd prepared a surprise for him. She'd even gotten a cake, planning to propose to him, but she decides to break up with him because he doesn't care about her. She's upset because she has to celebrate her birthday alone, like every year. She blows out the candle and makes a wish, telling herself, "Luck knows its own people, and I was never meant to be one of them." The next day she wakes up early for work and takes the subway, but notices a guy following her, trying to hit on her. He thinks she's some sweet, innocent girl. He has no idea she's not that easily fooled. She glares at him and warns him to back off or she'll break his face. Scared, the guy runs off. Then she sees a weather alert on TV about an incoming storm, and she panics because she doesn't have an umbrella. She rushes to get to work, but realizes she arrived early, so she decides to sit and have breakfast first. A coworker spots her and comes over to warn her about a new employee who just joined, telling her to stay away from him. He introduces him as Kang, good-looking, but known to be cold and dangerous. Apparently no one's ever seen him smile. Seo-yeon brushes it off as a joke, but once she gets to the office and hears everyone talking about him, she realizes the rumors might be true. Then she heads to her office, but finds her manager furious over a problem at the factory and demanding she go fix it immediately. She tries to get out of it, saying it's too far and she won't make it back in time, but he's already arranged a private plane for her. She's frustrated because now she has no excuse, and even though she's terrified of heights, she's forced to board the plane. When she arrives at the factory, she finds the workers in a fight with each other. She tries to calm them down so they'll get back to work, but she fails and starts losing hope, not knowing what to do. Suddenly, Kang shows up, confident, taking charge himself. Seo-yeon, confused, asks who he is, but the moment she hears his name, she realizes this is the arrogant, cold, dangerous coworker everyone warned her about. She assumes there's no way he'll be able to fix this, but he cleverly gets the workers to make peace and go back to work. Seo-yeon is stunned by what he pulled off, and feeling like she failed, decides to head back to the company. But the driver tells her someone else will be riding the plane with them, and she's shocked to find out it's Kang. Terrified, she has no choice but to sit next to him. As they take off, she tries to make conversation to get to know him, but suddenly a violent storm hits and the plane starts shaking hard. Naturally, Seo-yeon panics and grabs onto him for comfort, but once she realizes what she's doing, she apologizes and pulls away quickly. Worried he might have ruined his clothes, he hands her a bag just in case she needs it. She feels embarrassed. Sure, she looks awful in front of him. When she gets back to the company, her manager tears into her, saying she failed to solve the problem. Seo-yeon gets upset, assuming Kang must have told him, and starts resenting him. She spends the rest of the day working, trying to forget what happened. When she finishes, she borrows an umbrella from a coworker since it's raining and heads home. She puts on music and starts drinking, trying to shake off her bad mood, but she still feels lonely, and memories of her cheating ex come flooding back. We learn he was her college classmate. She fell for him at first sight and used to secretly watch him practice every day. He was a singer. She decided to learn an instrument too so she could join his band, and she succeeded. The two of them started performing together. After graduation, she planned to confess her feelings, but found out he was about to join the military and had to put it off, feeling crushed. A year later, she ran into him by chance at the supermarket. It felt like fate had brought them back together. That's when she finally told him how she felt, and they got together. Snapping out of the memory, she's sad because she still has feelings for him, but decides to move on. The next day, she heads to work excited, but is shocked to learn Kang is going to be her new team leader. Her coworkers try to get to know him, but he's cold with them, telling them, "I already know everything about you," and demands they focus on work. Seo-yeon is unsettled by his personality and becomes even more convinced he's a cold, merciless person. She decides to keep her distance. At lunch, she goes to eat with her friends, but suddenly gets a call from her mother, who says she's invited her to a restaurant. Confused, Seo-yeon agrees to meet her, but when she arrives, she finds a strange man waiting for her instead. She realizes her mother has set her up on a blind date, hoping to marry her off. She's forced to sit with him until her mother shows up. As luck, or bad luck, would have it, Kang happens to be at the same restaurant. Embarrassed the moment she spots him, she spills food on her clothes. The guy on the date tries to hand her a napkin, but she's flustered, pushes his hand away, and tells him she's not thinking about marriage right now. She apologizes, gets up, and leaves, thinking that's the end of it. But back at the office, all her co-workers are congratulating her. Confused, she asks why, and finds out someone told them she was on an arranged date. Shocked, she assumes it was Kang again and, furious, confronts him about it. He responds coldly, saying he doesn't get involved in other people's business. Realizing he's innocent, she apologizes, but he ignores her and walks off. She feels guilty for accusing him unfairly. She then heads into a meeting, only to discover her manager stole her project idea. Furious, she decides to get back at him. She pulls the flash drive out of the computer while he's mid-presentation, and of course he can't continue since it was never really his work to begin with. Kang notices what's happening and gives her the chance to step up and explain it herself, proving the project was hers. Seo-yeon starts to get nervous since she lacks confidence in herself. After the meeting, she goes to thank Kang for helping her. At the end of the day, she heads to the bus stop, but is surprised to see Kang walking behind her. She assumes he's following her, but he's actually just returning the notebook she left behind in the meeting. Touched, she thanks him and gets on the bus, only to be shocked when he sits right next to her, even though there are plenty of empty seats. Feeling awkward, she tries making conversation to understand him better and invites him to a coworker's wedding, but he declines, explaining he can't go because the bride is his ex-wife. Seo-yeon is stunned. She had no idea, and feels embarrassed for prying into his life. At the wedding, she can't stop thinking about him and sends him a message apologizing in case she hurt his feelings, but he doesn't reply at all. She assumes he's upset and doesn't know what to do. When the wedding ends, she's crossing the street without paying attention and nearly gets hit by a car, but Kang suddenly appears, grabs her hand, and saves her life. Stunned to see him there, she feels like she's dreaming and asks what he's doing there. He tells her it was just a coincidence that he was passing by. He takes her to a cafe and buys her a drink, then asks about the wedding. Not wanting to upset him, Seo-yeon lies and says the wedding was boring and the food was terrible. She keeps drinking with him to help lift his mood, but ends up getting dizzy and falls asleep from exhaustion. Kang tries to wake her up, but she's delirious, so he has no choice but to walk her home. Along the way, she tells him she also recently broke up with her ex. She suddenly trips and almost falls, but he catches her just in time and holds her. Embarrassed at being so close to him, she notices for the first time just how handsome he is. She can't stop staring, heart-eyed, and even suggests they meet up again tomorrow. But realizing she's not really herself right now, he walks her inside and leaves. The next day, Seo-yeon wakes up remembering everything she said the night before and panics that Kang might have misread it as her having feelings for him. Mortified, she hides under her blanket out of embarrassment. She heads to the supermarket to buy breakfast, still in her house clothes since it's nearby, and, of course, Kang happens to be there too. He's clearly caught off guard seeing her in slippers, but he doesn't want to embarrass her, so he lets it go and heads out. But she catches him laughing warmly, for what seems like the first time ever, and, flustered, snaps at him, "By the way, you clearly don't know fashion. These are imported. They cost 200 pounds. She storms off home, mortified. At work, she decides to avoid him and eats with her coworkers, but Kang suddenly walks into the restaurant and sits right next to her. Stunned by his behavior, she eats quickly and leaves. She then goes to buy coffee, but he follows her and pays for it before she can. She realizes he wants to talk to her and assumes he's going to bring up what happened the night before, so she pretends to be looking for something and hurries off. She sits with a friend on the stairs, thinking she's escaped him, but he shows up right behind her, asking if she's free. Flustered, she tells him she's busy and heads to her office, only to find him already inside the elevator. Of course, she refuses to get in with him, thinking he's everywhere she goes. Frustrated that she keeps avoiding, he doesn't give up. He enlists a coworker to help him with a plan. After work, the coworker meets Seo-yeon at a restaurant, and suddenly Kang shows up too. The coworker pretends to be busy and leaves them alone. Seo-yeon tenses up, assuming Kang is about to confess his feelings, but instead he shocks her by saying, "I want you to work with me. I want you to be my assistant." Stunned, she realizes she completely misread the situation, but remembering everything that's happened between them, she apologizes and turns him down. Kang respects her decision and doesn't push, but tells her he'll give her time to think it over, since he's still hoping she'll change her mind. The next day, Seo-yeon arrives at work and sees Kang standing with a crying employee. She assumes he yelled at the woman since he's so cold, and feels relieved she turned down his offer. When she gets to her office, her manager dumps a mountain of work on her. She's forced to accept, figuring it's still better than working under Kang, and ends up staying late. When she finally finishes and is getting ready to leave, she spots Kang still working, with music playing. She watches him from a distance, completely absorbed, but he senses her staring and turns around, so she quickly hides and heads home. When she gets there, she finds her ex-boyfriend waiting for her. The moment he sees her, he runs up and hugs her, telling her he missed her. Furious, Seo-yeon pushes him away and reminds him they've already broken up. He apologizes and begs for offer a second chance, but she refuses, telling him, "Look, buddy, I live by principles. Rotten fish doesn't turn into jam, and people with no manners don't just learn manners overnight." She hands him a box with his stuff and sends him off, then goes inside crying. Clearly, she still has unresolved feelings for him, but she decides she needs to move on since he wounded her pride. The next day at work, she submits the report she wrote to her manager, but instead of thanking her, he demands she redo it entirely. Shocked, she tries to find out why, but he just yells at her, humiliating her in front of everyone. Kang sees this happening and steps in to defend her, taking her to a restaurant to talk. Seo-yeon thanks him for what he did, and he explains that her manager is simply jealous of her. He encourages her, builds up her confidence, and promises that if she works with him, he'll support her and help her become the top employee in the company. He also gets her favorite drink, and Seo-yeon is moved by his words. She starts to see him as a genuinely kind person, and her opinion of him shifts. Back at the office, she finds her friend feeling sick and decides to take her to the hospital, but her horrible manager refuses to give her time off, accusing her of faking it and demanding she keep working. Furious, Seo-yeon finally stands up to him for the first time, telling him they're human beings, not machines, and warning him to treat them better or she'll report him to the company's CEO. Intimidated, the manager backs down and lets her friend take the day off, but insists Seo-yeon do her friend's work as punishment. She has no choice but to agree, drops her friend off at the hospital, then goes back to the office and works through the entire night until she's finished. Exhausted, she heads home, and while there, she happens to open her notebook and is stunned to find that Kang had read it and left notes on her project. Touched, she starts crying, realizing how unfairly she'd treated him, now convinced he really is a kind person, and decides to make things right. The next day, she walks into the office with newfound confidence. Her manager greets her, gesturing for her to come continue her work, but she ignores him completely and goes straight to Kang, telling him she's ready to work with him. Delighted, Kang shakes her hand in front of everyone, promising to look out for her, and makes her favorite drink before taking her to her new office to start working. She watches him from a distance, in awe of how organized and tidy everything is around him. Kang notices her staring and sends her a message so as not to make her self-conscious. Seo-yeon smiles, appreciating that he's nothing like her old manager who used to scream at her. He asks her to come with him to the factory, where he tells the workers about a new project. Seo-yeon panics, assuming he's going to steal her idea, but instead, he tells everyone she's the one behind it. Thrilled, she's now certain he's an honest person. When they get back to the office, her manager is waiting, upset that she didn't finish her own work. She's scared and about to apologize, but Kang steps in to defend her, informing him she no longer works for him, and warns him to stay away from her or he'll regret it. Delighted, Seo-yeon thanks him, but asks him to let her handle things on her own from now on. She goes back to finish her work, planning to wrap it up before leaving, but Kang tells her to finish it tomorrow and rest instead. They leave the office together. Seo-yeon is surprised he takes the same bus, and even more surprised when he gives up his seat for her and stands the entire ride. She also notices he gets off at the same stop. Embarrassed, she assumes he's walking her home and tells him she's an adult. She can manage on her own, but he informs her that he actually lives in the same building. Startled to learn they're neighbors, she says goodbye and heads inside. Meanwhile, her friend meets up with her fiancé and asks when he plans to marry her, but he shocks her by ending the relationship instead. Devastated because she loves him, instead of arguing, she drops to her knees and begs him to stay, saying she can't live without him. Everyone is stunned by how she's acting, since she's throwing away her dignity. Her fiancé apologizes and walks away, leaving her sitting alone in tears. She heads to the beach to clear her head, and by chance, a handsome guy notices her and, feeling for her, gives her a cap to shield her from the sun. The next day, Seo-yeon wakes up early for work, but on the way learns her ex released a new song, and is shocked to discover it's her favorite song, the one he always used to sing to her. Moved and still in love with him, she bursts into tears, making her late for work. When she arrives, Kang notices she's distracted and asks to speak with her privately. Nervous, she assumes he's going to yell at her like her old manager, but instead, he gently tells her to go see a doctor if she's not feeling well. Touched, she thanks him and decides to go get checked out, only to find her friend is there too. The doctor tells them both they're suffering from stress caused by their heartbreak, and advises them to talk it out and try to lift each other's spirits. They take her advice and go up to the rooftop to watch the sunset together, each sharing their troubles. Both upset over their breakups, they agree to move on and start fresh, then spend the rest of the time joking around and laughing. Back at the office, Kang notices how focused Seo-yeon is. Every time he asks about a task, he's surprised to find she's already finished it. Impressed by her sharpness, he decides to reward her. After work, he takes her to a cafe and gets her favorite favorite drink. Delighted that he's paying attention to her, they joke around, laugh, and enjoy some quality time together, growing closer. At the end of the day, he offers to drive her home, and she's surprised to learn he has a car, wondering why he even bothers taking the bus to work. He tells her he just doesn't like driving, then asks why she seemed upset that morning. Flustered, she admits she broke up with her boyfriend, expecting him to tease her about it, but instead, he tells her he understands exactly how she feels, since he went through the same thing when he split from his ex. He plays music to cheer her up, and Seo-yeon is charmed, more convinced than ever that he's a genuinely kind person. When they arrive home, she's shocked to find her ex-boyfriend waiting for her there. The moment he spots her, he rushes over and starts helping her carry her bags. Kang decides to leave them be, but she grabs his hand and asks him to stay with her. He agrees and keeps helping her, which makes her ex visibly jealous of their closeness. Her ex introduces himself to Kang, and it's clear the two don't like each other at all. Worried they might get into a fight over her, Seo-yeon asks her ex what brought him here. He hands her a ticket to his concert and asks her to come, saying he'll be waiting for her tomorrow. Torn and unsure what to do, she thanks Kang for helping her, and once inside, spends the whole night debating whether to go or not. The next day at work, the team successfully finishes the project, and Kang decides to take everyone out to celebrate, inviting Seo-yeon along too. As they're all eating and having a good time, he notices her checking her phone constantly and pulls her aside to ask if she still has feelings for her ex. Nervous, she admits she's not sure, so he suggests she go to the concert. That way she'll finally know for certain. Convinced by his advice, she decides to go. Meanwhile, her ex refuses to start the show until she arrives, and the moment he spots her, he's overjoyed. He starts performing, singing beautifully, and the crowd goes wild, cheering his name. When he finishes, he tells everyone he wants to thank someone special who was the reason behind his success, clearly meaning Seo-yeon, expecting her to be thrilled. But instead, she just watches him, feeling nothing at all. All she can think about are her memories with him. We learn that she was always by his side supporting him, but he was selfish and only thought of himself, so much so that he even forgot her birthday once. Snapping out of the memory, she realizes she made the right choice breaking up with him. She leaves the concert in tears. Her ex spots her, chases after her, and when he catches up, hugs her and apologizes for not appreciating her. He sits with her and explains he never proposed before because he was poor and struggling, but now he's a star with plenty of money, and asks her to marry him, promising to make it up to her. She refuses, knowing he gets bored easily and could leave her again. She hugs him goodbye, wishing him happiness, and walks away. When she gets home, she breaks down crying. The next day at work, she puts ice on her puffy, swollen eyes from all the crying. Her friend tries to comfort her. By chance, a coworker spots her and assumes she's crying because Kang yelled at her, but Seo-yeon defends him, insisting he's actually very kind and treats her well. She keeps saying nice things about him, not realizing he's standing right behind her and heard everything. Embarrassed, she pretends to have something in her eye. Afterward, her friend heads to a bookstore, where a guy asks for her number, assuming he's interested in her. She tells him she's taken, but he laughs, explaining he just collects numbers from everyone who visits the store. Embarrassed, she gives him her number anyway, but then recognizes his face as the same guy who gave her the cap at the beach. She thanks him and promises to return it next time. Later, Seo-yeon goes to watch a soccer match, and by coincidence Kang is there too. She watches him help a kid retrieve his ball, and is impressed by his kindness, more convinced than ever that he's a genuinely good person. She ends up watching the rest of the match with him, and they both put on the team jerseys. All the girls at the game swoon over how handsome he is, and Seo-yeon can't help feeling a pang of jealousy. They head into the stadium together, and Kang buys her favorite drink. Suddenly, a ball comes flying toward her, but he catches it just in time, and by chance, the camera catches the moment, and everyone assumes they're a couple. The crowd asks them to do the raisin kiss tradition. As Kang starts leaning in, Seo-yeon panics, assuming he's about to kiss her, and closes her eyes, secretly thrilled, but he actually just hugs the mascot behind her. Relieved, she realizes he's just messing with her. At the end of the day, she thanks him for saving her and says goodbye, but keeps sneaking glances at him as she walks off. The next day at work, she overhears coworkers gossiping, assuming she and Kang are secretly dating. Furious, she keeps arguing with them, but when she comes out of the bathroom, they've already left. She heads to the office to keep working on her project and starts rehearsing her presentation. Kang notices and offers to help, holding her hands to show her the right way to present. She's flustered by how close he is, and the two of them keep exchanging looks full of unspoken feelings. At lunch, they head out to eat, but end up sharing the elevator with his ex-wife. Kang tenses up, pretending not to care, but Seo-yeon can tell he's still affected by her. Meanwhile, her friend runs into the handsome guy who helped her and returns the cap he lent her. but he asks her to grab a drink with him. She refuses, saying he's too young for her, and walks off. But he follows and tells her he saw her fiancé breaking up with her, and offers to pretend to be her boyfriend to make him jealous. At first she refuses, but her sister sends her a message saying she saw her ex-fiancé with another girl. Shocked, she goes back to the handsome guy and agrees to his plan. That night, Seo-yeon is working late again. Kang notices she's exhausted and tells her to go rest, but she gets dizzy and collapses. Worried, he decides to take her home himself, carrying her all the way, laying her in her room, and staying by her side until she falls asleep. In her sleep, she starts hallucinating, imagining her ex-boyfriend standing in front of her and calling out to him. Kang overhears her, assumes she's still in love with her ex, and leaves feeling hurt. The next day, Seo-yeon wakes up relieved she's feeling better, but realizes she's running late to present her project. She rushes to get ready and manages to make it just in time. She finds Kang waiting for her, and noticing she's nervous, he encourages her and builds up her confidence. She thanks him and takes the stage to present her project. Everything is going smoothly, but suddenly she feels a headache coming on, reminded of how her old manager used to treat her, and considers backing out. But Kang signals to her, letting her know he's right there. She calms down seeing him, takes a deep breath, and continues, successfully delivering her presentation, even switching to fluent English without a single mistake, impressing everyone with her intelligence, and the crowd keeps cheering her name. When she finishes, Kang tells her he's proud of her and decides to take her out to celebrate. Delighted, she assumes he'll get her favorite food, but he surprises her with healthy food instead, since she's still recovering. Even though it doesn't taste great, she's happy he cares about her health and decides to eat it anyway. She goes home happy, reminiscing about their moments together and all the times he's helped her. She can feel her heart starting to beat for him. The next day at work, she decides to buy him a coffee to thank him, but when she goes to find him, she's shocked to see him with his ex-wife. She hides quickly to eavesdrop, but they go sit in a cafe instead. Seo-yeon feels a pang of jealousy, wondering what they're talking about. Kang asks his ex what she wants, and she shows him a photo of him with Seo-yeon at the stadium, warning him that rumors are spreading about them and advising him to distance himself from her for the sake of his reputation. He thanks her and considers doing so. Meanwhile, Seo-yeon's friend suggests they take the next day off and go out together, but she declines, saying she has too much work. She heads to her office and finds Kang there, wearing headphones and asleep. Impressed by how handsome he looks, she leans in closer to admire his features, but suddenly he opens his eyes and catches her staring. Mortified, she smacks him with a pen, pretending she was just swatting a fly off his face. Kang knows she's lying, but doesn't call her out because he's too charmed by her. He takes her aside to talk, telling her there are rumors going around about them, but just as they head outside, it suddenly starts pouring rain. He tells her to wait while he goes to grab an umbrella, but she refuses, telling him she loves the feeling of rain on her skin, and runs off laughing. Charmed by how childlike and carefree she is, he finds himself running along with her, laughing too, and they enjoy a fun moment together. When they get back to the office, he tells her he's leaving early today because he has an important errand. Surprised, since this has never happened before, she spots him carrying a bouquet of flowers and assumes it's for his ex-wife. Jealous, she decides to see for herself and waits outside her manager's office, but he never shows up, and she realizes she misjudged him. Meanwhile, Kang visits his mother's grave. We learn today is the anniversary of her passing. He stands in front of her photo, clearly still grieving and missing her deeply. Afterward, Seo-yeon goes home to brainstorm a new project idea. She happens to open her fridge and finds a lot of expired food, which gives her the idea to create an app that alerts people when their food is about to expire. She decides to get Kang's input, and the next day tells him everything about the idea. Impressed, he offers to let her test it out at his place. Delighted, she agrees to go with him, but is surprised to find out he's taking her to his actual home. Nervous and a little scared at first, she gathers her courage since she trusts him. While looking around, she opens his fridge and finds it packed with food, realizing he loves cooking. She asks him to make her something, and is blown away by how good it tastes, admiring his character even more. Afterward, she steps out onto the balcony but finds him writing her name on a whiteboard. Surprised, she asks if he has feelings for her. He tenses up, worried about the rumor spreading and not wanting to cause her trouble, so he denies it, telling her he sees her like a sister. Hurt by his words, Seo-yeon tells him she has somewhere to be and leaves. Kang keeps watching her until she's gone. Meanwhile, her friend decides to go out with Seo-yeon to lift her spirits, but is surprised to learn she's actually taking her on a blind date. She tries to escape, but her friend drags her into the restaurant anyway, where a guy is waiting for them. They sit and play a game of questions, and when it's her turn, he asks if she's interested in anyone. Flustered, without even realizing, Seo-yeon finds finds herself thinking of Kang, remembering all their sweet moments together, and realizes she's fallen for him. She decides to ditch the date and leave, wandering the streets instead. Suddenly, Kang calls her and tells her to look behind her. She's shocked to find him standing right outside her building. But remembering what he said about seeing her as a sister, she's afraid it'll break his heart if she confesses her feelings, so she decides to distance herself instead, telling him she's leaving his team. Shocked by what he's hearing, Kang goes to talk to her and asks if he did something to upset her, but she avoids the question, saying she's just tired and overworked. Not wanting to pressure her, he decides to give her time off to think things over, and heads off. The next day at work, he tries to distract himself, but can't stop thinking about her, missing her more than he expected. Meanwhile, Seo-yeon goes to help her cousin pick out a wedding dress. Her cousin notices she's distracted and buys her some sweets to cheer her up, asking what's wrong. Seo-yeon decides to tell her everything, that she has feelings for her manager at work but isn't sure of his true feelings since he treats her like a sister. Shocked, her cousin warns her to stay away from him since he could break her heart just like her ex did. Convinced by the advice, Seo-yeon decides to follow it, believing she'll forget him. Meanwhile, Kang is heading home from work and passes by the restaurant Seo-yeon loves, so he decides to buy her some food and wait outside her building until she gets home. Surprised to see him there, she asks what brought him, but he just hands her the food, telling her the office has no flavor without her around. Touched, Seo-yeon thanks him for thinking of her and decides she'll go back to work with him starting tomorrow. She heads inside and spends the whole night thinking about him, deciding to keep things strictly professional between them out of fear of getting too attached. The next day, she greets him formally, without smiling or joking around like before. Surprised by the change, Kang doesn't push and lets her be. Meanwhile, her friend meets up with a handsome guy, and they start following through with their plan. He takes her to the beach to teach her surfing, and they spend a fun day playing and laughing together, acting like a real couple. By chance, she runs into her ex-fiancé. Nervous, she tries to hide, but she spots him with his new girlfriend. Furious, she decides to make him jealous, grabbing the handsome guy's hand and pretending they've been a couple for years. The guy suggests she expose her ex to his new girlfriend, telling her how he cheated and left her, but she refuses, not wanting to cause him trouble, choosing instead to forgive him and wish him a happy life away from her. She sits by the sea to clear her head, and the handsome guy, impressed by how she handled things, comes to comfort her. Suddenly, he asks her to be with him for real this time, not pretend. Surprised by his boldness, she can't stop looking at him, clearly smitten but too nervous to answer. He laughs it off, not wanting to push her, and gives her time to think before offering her a ride home. The next day, Seo-yeon and her coworkers go on a team outing, and they decide to play a game, but they end up rigging it so she gets paired with Kang. Forced to work together to win, they end up putting their past tension aside and having a great time together. But once the game ends and they're back with the group, they go right back to being cold with each other, confusing their coworkers, who assume they've had a falling out and try to make them reconcile. That night, everyone stays up together by the sea, but eventually leaves the two of them alone to talk. Kang seizes the moment, grabs her hand, and asks why she's been upset with him, but she just says she's trying to treat him like a brother, then leaves to go sleep. Stunned by her words, Kang realizes she actually has feelings for him and decides he'll confess his own feelings too. The next day at work, he waits to talk to her, but she's running late, so he searches everywhere for her. Meanwhile, Seo-yeon is wearing headphones and working, completely unaware of the time, and gets locked in when security closes up. She's trapped in the dark and tries calling her friend for help, but her phone dies. She calls out for someone to help her, but no one hears her, and she starts losing hope, resigned to being stuck there. But Kang senses something's wrong and goes looking for her, searching every office until he finds her sitting alone. Relieved she's okay, he goes to talk to her, apologizing for how coldly he's been treating her, and admits he's had feelings for her since the moment he first saw her. Stunned by his confession, she leaves with him so he can drop her off, but suddenly it starts raining, and Kang gives her his umbrella before walking off, giving her space to think things over. Confused and overwhelmed, Seo-yeon boards the bus, still thinking about him, realizing she wants to be around him all the time. She goes looking for him and, once she finds him, confesses that she has feelings for him too. Delighted, Kang leans in for a raisin kiss. They decide to give each other a real chance and officially become a couple. The next day, Seo-yeon wakes up early and is thrilled to get a good morning message from him, asking how she's doing and telling her he's waiting outside. She's happy since her ex never used to make her feel this as cared for. She decides to meet him, standing in front of the mirror and starting to take better care of herself. She puts on makeup to look her best, wears her nicest outfit, and steps out full of confidence. Kang is stunned by how beautiful she looks and presents her with a bouquet of flowers. The two of them are living the happiest moment of their lives and decide to head to work together, but she asks that they keep the relationship a secret so no one gets jealous of them. He agrees and drops her off nearby. At their meeting, Kang acts extra tough with her, snapping at her in front of everyone just to keep anyone from suspecting they're together, even though deep down he's crazy about her. Upset by how he's treating her, Seo-yeon has to bear it since it was her idea in the first place. After the meeting, he goes to make it up to her, taking her hand and leading her to the library to talk, but they find two other coworkers there and realize they're secretly dating too. They all share a laugh and stay hidden until the coworkers leave. At the end of the day, they ride the elevator together and decide to go on a date, strolling around the city, enjoying themselves, but they run into a coworker and quickly hide from him. Once he's gone, they think they're finally safe, but suddenly her friend walks in on them holding hands and is shocked. Seo-yeon apologizes for keeping it from her and tells her everything, asking her to keep it secret, and her friend promises to. Afterward, they get in the car, worried that if they go to a restaurant, someone might spot them together, so Kang suggests she come to his place and let him cook for her. Nervous, but trusting him, she agrees. Once at his place, he heads into the kitchen and, since he's such a stickler for organization, cuts the salad with a ruler, making Seo-yeon laugh. She goes to help him, and once the food's ready, they sit down to eat together happily. Kang keeps doting on her, holding her hand and treating her like a princess, then leans in for another raisin kiss. Time passes, and they keep talking constantly to stay close, even leaving the call open while they sleep. Meanwhile, her friend decides to give the handsome guy a real chance and goes to his studio to help him with work, but he can't resist her charm and asks her to officially be with him, leaning in for a raisin kiss too. But suddenly a girl walks in, visibly upset to see them together, since it turns out she's his girlfriend. Shocked, Seo-yeon's friend had no idea he was already taken. Furious at being put in this situation again, just like when her ex-fiancé left her for someone else, she storms off. The guy tries to chase after her, insisting she's misunderstanding, but she won't give him the chance, crying and telling him to stay away from her. The next day, Seo-yeon tries to talk to Kang, but he's too busy and she has to leave work alone. When she gets home, though, she finds him waiting for her, saying his specialty is surprises. Delighted, she runs to hug him and invites him in for dinner, but since she's clumsy, she spills juice all over him. Embarrassed, she lends him some of her clothes to change into, and he thanks her, deciding to stay the night. The next day, they go work out together and end up jogging through the woods, but Seo-yeon starts getting tired and sits down. Kang notices her shoelace came undone and ties it for her himself, then decides to carry her on his back so they can keep going. He takes her to get some rest and buys her water. Delighted by his attention, she pretends she can't keep going, but the second he mentions getting ice cream, she jumps up and sprints home at full speed. No one can resist ice cream. When she gets there, though, she finds her ex-boyfriend waiting for her. She tenses up, worried Kang will be upset, but he tells her he trusts her completely. Relieved, she goes to talk to her ex and tells him to stay away from her since she's in a relationship now. She sends him off and goes back to Kang, taking his hand, and they head to work together, continuing to work on her project. At lunch, they go eat with their co-workers, and Kang keeps looking out for her, even serving her food himself, but worried someone might notice, she nudges him with her foot to get him to serve everyone else too. Afterward, they get in a crowded elevator, and he pulls her hand to help her get out, worried co-workers might notice. She grabs her teammates' hands too and pulls them all out with her, confusing them, though they thank her for helping. At the end of the day, Seo-yeon is getting ready to leave, but spots Kang in the car with his ex-wife, talking privately. Feeling a pang of jealousy, she pretends not to notice. Once they're done, she gets in the car with him. Delighted, he buckles her seatbelt, leaning in close. She's the one who suddenly doesn't feel safe at all. He drives her home, but she asks to talk to him first and confronts him about seeing him with his ex, asking what they were discussing. He explains that her mother has Alzheimer's and still believes they're together, which is why she wanted him to visit, hoping it might help her condition. Shocked, Seo-yeon feels guilty for doubting him and apologizes for suspecting him unfairly. She leaves and goes for a run to clear her head. Meanwhile, her friend finds the handsome guy waiting for her, wanting to talk. This time, she agrees to hear him out. He explains that it was actually his girlfriend who left him, and he hasn't thought about her since. In tears, he tells her, "I love you, and only you." Moved by his words, she realizes she misjudged him, and happy she's finally found someone who truly cares, she hugs him and agrees to officially be with him. The next day, Seo-yeon attends her cousin's wedding and waits for Kang, but he's he's running late, so she has to go in without him. There, she runs into her ex-boyfriend, who takes advantage of her being alone and tries to get close to her, hoping to win her back, but she refuses, telling him to stay away. Luckily, Kang arrives just in time, warning him to keep his distance or regret it. He takes her hand and leads her away, apologizing on the way for being late, but she realizes he was with his ex-wife and feels a wave of jealousy, walking off ahead of him, upset. Assuming he won't even try to make it up to her, she's surprised when he actually gets on the same bus and follows behind to make sure she's okay. She trips and almost falls, but he catches her just in time, ties her shoelace, and gives her a teddy bear to cheer her up. Delighted by his attentiveness, she still isn't ready to forgive him just yet. The next day at work, she overhears the other girls gossiping about how handsome he is, and is surprised to see he's changed his hairstyle, dazzled by how good he looks, though she pretends not to care and goes to sit in her office. There, she finds her favorite drink waiting for her, along with a message from him apologizing, saying he can't bear to see her upset with him. Delighted that he's determined to make things right, she gets into the elevator and finds him waiting to walk her to it. Meanwhile, her friend leaves work and finds the handsome guy waiting for her too, but embarrassed, she pretends to strangers that he's just her relative, thinking he's a bit too young for her, feeling self-conscious about their age gap. She apologizes to him for not meaning to hurt him and invites him to a restaurant to make up. She orders his favorite food, but ends up eating it herself, making him feel like she's treating him like a child. At the end of the day, he walks her home, then suddenly leans in for a raisin kiss, proving he's mature enough to handle real responsibility, and walks off full of confidence. Meanwhile, Kang and Seo-yeon sit down at a restaurant and decide to put their past disagreement behind them, making up and going right back to being sweet on each other. The next day, they finish her project, and it's time for the big presentation. The company's CEO and all the employees show up to watch. Seo-yeon begins explaining her AI-powered app, demonstrating how it works, and everything is going perfectly, until suddenly the system crashes. Shocked, she realizes her old manager is behind the sabotage, and worries her project has failed, but Kang had already prepared a backup security system, and gets everything back up and running. Thanks to that, the project is a huge success, and everyone is impressed and applauds her. Delighted, Seo-yeon thanks him for saving the day. That night, she plans to celebrate with her team, but is surprised Kang doesn't show up. Worried, she goes to his place to check on him and keeps ringing the bell, but he doesn't answer. Afraid something happened to him, she's about to break down the door, but he suddenly appears behind her, having just gone out to buy food. Relieved but tearful, she cries because she was so worried about him. He apologizes and hugs her, reassuring her he's fine, then walks her home. Along the way, he buys her favorite food and ends up eating most of it himself. Delighted by his care, they're suddenly caught in the first snowfall. Surprised and thrilled, they hold hands and run through it together, laughing and happy. Meanwhile, Seo-yeon gets home to find the police outside her building. She learns from a neighbor that there's a burglar targeting the building. When she goes inside her apartment, she's shocked to find it's been ransacked. The burglar tried to break in. Terrified he might come back while she's asleep, she sends Kang a message telling him what happened. Worried, he asks her to wait for him at his place, and he'll come get her. She waits up for him and is relieved when he arrives, glad she's safe. He asks her to marry him and move in with him, but sensing her hesitation, he doesn't pressure her, giving her time to think, and holds her close all night to comfort her. The next day at work, she learns from her coworkers that she's about to be promoted to manager. She pretends not to care in front of them, but once she's in her office alone, she celebrates and dances with joy. Thrilled her dream is finally coming true, all thanks to Kang. When she gets home, she finds him in the kitchen, cooking for her himself. Touched by his thoughtfulness, she watches him with eyes full of love, more certain than ever that his feelings for her are genuine, and that he's finally the good thing she'd been waiting for all along, grateful he's in her life. They decide to dress up and go out on a romantic date, taking a walk together and enjoying quality time. At the end of the night, Kang gives her a paper ring, telling her, "I want to be as light on your heart as this ring." Touched, Seo-yeon asks him to walk her home, and they stroll hand in hand, living out the happiest love story in the world. When they arrive, Kang decides to stay over to make sure the burglar doesn't come back, but suddenly they hear a noise outside. Assuming it's the burglar, they grab a chair to defend themselves, but when they open the door, they're shocked to find her father standing there. He's just as stunned to see them together. Nervous, Seo-yeon blurts out that they're a couple, that they've been together for years and love each other. Her father gets upset that she kept it from him and asks to speak with Kang alone. He asks him if he's just messing around with his daughter, but Kang assures him he's serious about her, that he's already proposed and is waiting for her answer, promising to protect and take care of her. Pleased with his answer, her father says he's basically family now, and suggests they have a drink and get to know each other better, and they keep drinking until her father passes passes out. Kang has to carry him home and lay him down on the couch. Her mother is charmed by him and wishes her daughter would marry someone just like him. Kang just laughs, since she has no idea they're already together. He walks her out and returns to Seo-yeon, reassuring her everything's fine, and they stay up together the rest of the night, happy. But as we know, good things never last. The next day at work, they learn that the terrible manager leaked a photo of Kang with his ex-wife, claiming they're secretly still together, trying to expose him and ruin his reputation. Furious when he reads the news, Kang confronts him, ready to fight, but Seo-yeon arrives just in time and stops him. Instead, she steps up to defend him herself, rushing over, taking his hand, and openly admitting in front of all their coworkers that they're together and in love. Delighted by what she did, Kang thanks her, but back at her office, she finds his ex-wife waiting for her, wanting to talk. Seo-yeon assumes she's about to yell at her, but instead, she thanks her for being brave enough to shut down the rumors, and wishes them a happy life together. Touched by her kindness, Seo-yeon heads to the elevator, and Kang passes by. Their coworkers assume they're about to hold hands since they're dating now, but embarrassed, Seo-yeon shuts the door in his face. Confused by her reaction, he lets it go and takes her with him to a meeting. There, Seo-yeon pitches a new project, and Kang is impressed and approves it, but the other employees claim he's only approving it because she's his girlfriend, and unfortunately start bullying her over it, rejecting the project outright. Hurt by their comments, Kang takes her aside to comfort her, encouraging her not to let other people's opinions define who she really is. He puts her headphones on so she can listen to music and take her mind off it. Grateful for his support, Seo-yeon thanks him and heads home, refusing to give up, staying up all night to keep working on the project instead. The next day, she goes to work full of energy, but is shocked to find another employee got the promotion instead of her, realizing it's because of the rumors. Her friend tries to comfort her, but Seo-yeon walks off alone to clear her head. By chance, she runs into her old manager, who mocks her, still thinking she's some sweet, pushover girl who'll just take it. He has no idea just how fierce she can be, and anyone who crosses her doesn't get off easy. She decides to teach him a serious lesson, reminding him he's a thief who stole her project idea, and warns him if he comes near her again, she'll expose him and break his face. Furious at her boldness, the manager throws coffee on her and tries to hit her, but Kang arrives just in time and stops him, threatening that if he even thinks about touching her, he'll break both his arms. Terrified by his intensity, the manager backs off and leaves. Impressed by what he did, their co-workers cheer for him. Afterward, Kang takes Seo-yeon to his office to help clean up her clothes, telling her to stay strong and make anyone who tries to bully her regret it. Delighted by his support, she opens the fridge so no one can hear her, and lets out all her anger by cursing out her old manager. She then hugs Kang, thanking him for always being by her side and supporting her. The next day, she meets with the company's CEO herself and pitches her project directly. Impressed by her intelligence, the CEO approves it. Thrilled her hard work paid off, Seo-yeon decides to celebrate with Kang, taking him out and buying his favorite food. They eat together happily, and at the end of the day, he drives her home, buckling her seatbelt again. He tells her he's taking tomorrow off to visit his father and asks her to take care of herself while he's gone. She reassures him she'll be fine. Meanwhile, her friend meets up with a handsome guy and tells him she's moving abroad for 2 years due to a work promotion. Upset that she's leaving, he asks her not to go, but she explains she's been waiting for this opportunity for a long time and asks him to wait for her. Feeling like she's being selfish, he decides to end things instead, hands her his umbrella, and walks away, leaving her standing alone in tears. The next day, Seo-yeon realizes how much she misses Kang and decides to visit him at his father's place in the countryside. Surprised and delighted to see her, he runs to hug her, and they walk along the beach together. She tells him the office has no life without him, but he shocks her by telling her he's decided to resign. Stunned, she assumes it's because of her and offers to switch teams instead, but he reassures her it's not her fault. He's just burnt out from work and needs a break from all the drama. Not wanting to pressure him, she respects his decision. Afterward, his father welcomes her warmly and invites her to eat with them. They spend a lovely time together, joking and laughing like one big family. The next day, Seo-yeon returns to the city and decides to tell her mother she's getting married. She meets her at a restaurant and tells her about Kang. Her mother is thrilled at first, since he's handsome and successful, but the moment she learns he was married before, she completely changes her mind, telling Seo-yeon she doesn't approve of the relationship at all, and walks off. Stunned, Seo-yeon follows her to find out why, and her mother explains that he must have gotten divorced because he wasn't ready for the responsibility, warning her to stay away since he might just be toying with her and could break her heart. Upset that her mother's misjudging him, Seo-yeon doesn't know what to do and tells Kang what happened, but he reassures her he'll handle it, and starts sending her mother gifts and health supplements regularly to to win her over. Delighted by his thoughtfulness, her mother starts to warm up to him, sensing he's a genuinely good person. Meanwhile, her friend is on her way home when she runs into her ex-fiancé, who apologizes and begs her to take him back, but she tells him to move on and mind his own business, making clear there's no chance she'll ever forgive him for breaking her heart. She tries to walk away, but he grabs her, threatening that she'll regret rejecting him. Luckily, the handsome guy shows up just in time and forces him off her, warning that she's his girlfriend now and if he comes near her again, he'll break his face. Scared of his strength, her ex runs off. The handsome guy apologizes for upsetting her and tells her he'll wait for her, since he loves her and can't imagine life without her. Touched, she hugs him. The next day, Kang officially resigns and goes to collect his things, but is surprised to find Seo-yeon and their coworkers have organized a farewell party for him. Moved by their support, he tells them he'll miss them, and they all eat and celebrate together happily. Afterward, he heads home to rest. At the end of the day, Seo-yeon visits him with flowers, thanking him for everything he's done, telling him he's the best manager she's ever had. Meanwhile, her friend boards a plane to leave the country and tries calling the handsome guy to say goodbye, but he doesn't answer, leaving her upset since she really wanted to see him one last time. But she's shocked to find him sitting right next to her on the plane, having decided to travel with her. Overjoyed, she hugs him. Time passes. Weeks, months, a full year go by. We see Kang back in a meeting, having returned to work, but this time running his own company. Meanwhile, Seo-yeon got her promotion and is now a manager herself. Both of them are thriving and successful in their lives, meeting up every day after work. One day, while walking together, Seo-yeon trips and nearly falls, but Kang catches her just in time, and it turns out he'd planned a surprise. He pulls out a ring and proposes to her. Overjoyed, she says yes, and it turns out she'd also gotten him a ring, and they exchange rings with each other, walking off together, happy, ready to start their new life together as a married couple, living in peace and harmony, and starting a family of their own.